Well, I'm kind of scared to ask this question now because I don't want to bring down the room. So
okay.
This is more directed at Jamie, but all of you can answer.
Go,
all
Jamie,
of you
go. I'm
have,
excited
like,
about it.
I'm ready to bring down the room. Let's do
We
it.
need a spotlight.
So
on
Funimation
Jamie.
has come under, let's call it, criticism for how they choose to adapt their scripts for
Like
a couple of
unnecessary
shows.
hate. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and a lot of that I feel is directed at you unfairly.
Thank you.
So how would you like to respond to that kind of criticism?
To the
particularly-
criticism, like, I have a vagina, deal with it. Like, it's honestly, that's the truth. I am a woman. I am a funny woman. We are all talented, funny, powerful women. We are out here. It's going to happen. Deal with it. I'm sorry you're not getting laid. It's not about you. Move on. That's my reaction.
All right.
Hello.
You get a lot of hate online?
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
I'm sorry, I
but
didn't hear the
also,
question.
like, if I'm making misogynists and Nazis angry, then I'm doing all right. 'Cause we don't, I mean, honestly, we don't want them associated with our fandom. They are not representative of us, and they will stand out and try to own this fandom. And I'm like, you don't realize these are amazing people with lots of backgrounds and lots of different cultures and just an amazing array of strength and power within them, and you do not represent the people I know. So just, yeah.
I said I wasn't going to make this video, but between when I said I scrapped it and now, a lot has developed. I feel like I have a responsibility as an artist and consumer of art to make this video. I will try to be as detailed as possible and give you guys a proper breakdown of the situation. So this one's going to be quite long, so strap in, boyo. So before we begin, disclaimer 1. This video is heavily opinionated. If you disagree with my takes, please leave counterpoints in the comments below. I love reading those. Okay? And disclaimer 2, do not harass any of the people mentioned in this video. So, I have to give credit where it's due before I begin. I need to give thanks to a YouTuber, Rev Says Desu, for chronicling the whole recent ordeal with Localizers. He's got a whole timeline going on here. Although, we'll see that the bad localization goes way back as we begin. And I will, however, state that there is one particular viewpoint of this particular individual that I am vehemently against and will be touched upon briefly in an aside later on in this video. If you know this person, you probably know what I'm going to mention later on, so yeah, that's going to be a little later in the video. But anyway, now that we got that out of the way, let's begin. Localizers. Nobody likes them, and here's why. Going all the way back, history of localization. So translations are a great thing. With people that are multilingual, we can understand, communicate, and appreciate other cultures. Translation is an extremely important field, and I personally recommend everyone to learn at least one other language. Translation goes all the way back to the Rosetta Stone, which translated Egyptian hieroglyphics into Greek. It was the beginning of communications between nations, and to this day, professional translators are employed to translate between the highest offices on the planet. So yeah, translation is extremely important. Localization, on the other hand, is not translation. A translator simply deciphers one language and presents it in another. A localizer will alter these translations to be more culturally relevant to the language it's translated into. An infamous example is, of course, the Pokemon Jelly Donut incident.
These donuts are great! Jelly filled are my favorite!
Yeah, that's not a jelly donut, bro. In some cases, localization can be a good thing. There may be some cultural aspects that might go over consumers' heads. Most would argue that a translator's note is better, which is sometimes used, but in some cases, just altering it can be applicable as well. However, we're not here to talk about good localization. We're here to talk about bad localization. And when it comes to bad localization, we need to go all the way back to Working Design. Working Designs was a company that specialized in localizing Japanese video games during the 90s and early 2000s. They have built up a bit of an infamous reputation for their horrid translations. Back in the day, if you were a gamer weeb, Working Designs was a godsend, as without them, getting these games stateside would have required importing and learning Japanese. They localized and released these games in English, and many classics that wouldn't have come overseas are revered because of them. The problem was that their localization was a bit overzealous at the time, kind of offensive, and, well, this one right here is my favorite. You're lucky I give good head, lover boy. Most girls would ask that you cough up a ring first. These localizations were so bad that there were even fan-made ROM hacks that corrected their shenanigans. But they were all you had back then. Over time, localizations got better. Or did they? To foreshadow what began this whole recent localizer freakout, I need to talk about Google Translate. So it was invented in 2006 and was really, really bad at first, and for quite a long time. Coincidentally, one of its worst translations were Japanese to English. However, over time, as the technology improved, so did the translations. It's still a bit iffy and gets a lot of things wrong, but it's getting there. Especially with advances in AI, it's only a matter of time until translators are mostly obsolete. Mostly, that is, for the actual translators, but in totality for the localizers. Let me reiterate, translation and localization are not the same at all. So the thing that brought localizers meddling to the mainstream was a recent development in AI technology. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I've been hypercritical of AI in that industry, and I would declare this is a rare AI bro W in my opinion. Manga series The Ancient Magus Bride recently had a chapter translated by AI. The publishing company was experimenting with the technology to get a faster, if not simultaneous, chapter release. The concept being fast AI translations touched up by a human thereafter. Noted lolcow, heterophobe, and terminally online localizer Katrina had a bad reaction to this news, but we will most definitely get to her. This opened a floodgate of various localizers speaking out, which in turn caused the Streisand effect, revealing crimes of art vandalism committed by the noted parties. And thus began the war between the woke localizers and the people who actually enjoy Japanese media. But we have to go back in the timeline first to help you, dear viewer, to understand, all the way back to the tape trading days. So, way back in the day when anime was really a hobby for actual nerds in the 90s and back, we'll call it the pre-Dragon Ball era, the way that weebs would actually watch and enjoy anime was via tape trading, at least here in the North American continent. This was a practice of some passionate fans recording Japanese anime and subtitling it themselves. Sometimes the tapes wouldn't even have subtitles. It was a rare commodity, but a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into these subs. I could go on and on about fan subs for a while, as it's a whole other thing to unpack, but even just looking at some of the meme screenshots from that era, you could tell that the passion was definitely there. There were even subbers that were beefing with each other and putting insults in the credits of the shows aimed at other subgroups. It's quite a bit before my time since I'm one of those Dragon Ball kids, but it is quite fun to look back on and see how it was. Of course, when anime got more popular, mostly due in part to the Dragon Ball phenomenon, subs were starting to be done professionally, albeit a bit more sterile. However, fan subbers never stopped. There are plenty of old Japan-only games that have ROM hacks out there that translate them to English for the very first time. This work is well worth it if you're hardcore enough, but that was then, this is now. There's always the debate of subs versus dubs, which one is better, and the correct answer is subs, okay? Especially with older anime. There have been good dubs in the past. Most people cite Cowboy Bebop as the first anime to have a good English voice acting, and some may say it may be the only one. I mean, if you like dubs, that's fine, but here's why I prefer subs. Firstly, scripts are altered, not just by localization, but due to the syncing of lip flaps or the moving of the character's mouth. I really don't like the use of the word lip flaps because it sounds gross and sexual in my opinion, so from here on out I will be referring to it as simply audio syncing. Now with the alteration of script, it becomes detached from the author's original intent. Even further, things will be altered to not even be remotely close to the original Japanese script.
Hey, bitches and bros and non-binary hoes!
Look, I'm not Nihongo Jozu, but whatever the original Japanese was, it definitely wasn't that. Also, this might just be a me thing, but the sound of dubbed anime sounds a million times cringier than anything on the planet. There's just a certain tonality to these second-rate voice actors that do English dubs that sound like nails on a chalkboard to me. It seems the majority of dubbed voice actors don't get much work outside of dubbing, as in content made first and foremost for an English-speaking audience. Probably because their abilities are limited and probably because dubbed voice actors don't cost as much. No offense to some of the voice actors working in dubs, but much offense especially to Funimation voice actors, except for Vic. But we will get to that. Oh, yes we will. But I highly doubt I'd ever hear someone like Mark Hamill or Phil Lamar in an episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. You know what I'm saying? And dub voice actors are, for lack of a better word, extremely petty and childish. This is based on their reputation and activities on Twitter. I honestly think there's something wrong with them, and we'll follow up more in depth at a later point in this very video, so keep watching. But for now, we need to talk about vandalism. I think there's nothing wrong with translating work from a different language to bring it to an international market so more people can enjoy the arts and culture of other countries. I hope one day my own comic can get translated and people from non-English speaking countries can enjoy it, but I would want to double check every translation due to the obvious meddling these localizers do. For instance, using my own work as an example, if Doomsayer got translated to Spanish, since that is my second language and I am quite familiar with it, I wouldn't want my writing changed. For instance, there's a scene in one chapter where the Queen explains the futility of martyrdom and its inevitable ineffectiveness. If that speech was translated to simply to Mujeres bueno, hombres malo, I'd be more pissed than an elephant. Some Localizers would surely see that this woman in power, as this character is, albeit a psychotic woman, would be a conduit to virtue signal modern feminist rhetoric. That is a legitimate concern I'd have before having my work translated. The author of Hajime no Ippo, the most famous boxing manga of all time, recently came out to speak against bad localization, stating that the translation should not deviate from the author's original intent. I believe the director of Final Fantasy Tactics said practically the same thing as well. I and the majority of people that enjoy any and all foreign media wholeheartedly agree with this sentiment. The problem is that the majority of these woke localizers have never created anything. There's a famous quote by J.R.R. Tolkien, author of Lord of the Rings: "Evil cannot create anything. They can only corrupt and ruin what good forces have invented or made." This quote was definitely appropriate with my AI Bros video from a while back, but it works twice as well in this localizer scenario. These people have contributed nothing. The people defending them are terminally online sycophants of the woke mind virus, and wokeness is something that I have addressed in my Comicscape video. See, there's a difference between being socially conscious and being woke. The majority of people are against stuff like racism and white supremacy and are totally fine with like non-white or LGBT people existing, in the real world or in fiction. Seriously, it's fine, dude. Nobody really cares that much. Wokeness is when the anti-stance is twisted to the extreme, and to use the woke's own phrase, and these people become anti-white heterophobic lunatics. That's the difference. Now that they've become infected by the woke mind virus, it becomes their entire world, and they are in constant need of altering things people outside their close-knit group of psychos deem problematic. Somehow, they weasel their way into the anime industry and alter subtitles and deliver dubs that are a million miles from the source material because they're uncomfy.
Pump the brakes, Arthur Fonzarelli. Have you got a stick up your ass? Or are you one of those dumbass Gamergate creep shows?
We'll talk about that anime in a little while. It's relevant for a side point that I need to make in this video. Overall, it's just disrespectful, it's unprofessional, it's just plain gross, and in all honesty, it's just vandalism. So let's begin this deep dive. So the first time that Localizer shenanigans became publicly visible was during an episode of Kyoto Animation's Dragon Maid, wherein the script adapter, Jamie Marchi, inserted Western political discourse into a Japanese cartoon. Anyone watching side by side with the superior subtitle version would know that that's not what she said. I'm not going to play the clip since it's been played to death, but I will put the side-by-side up. This particular clip also fueled her venomous response to that poor convention goer that asked the perfectly reasonable question that I played at the start of this video. Now, this video, despite touching on wokeness and Western politics, isn't necessarily political in nature. I'd be just as annoyed if the clip played like this. Oh, what's with the change in clothes?
Oh, I just wanted to try that trad thought look to appeal to an alpha red pillar so I can support the free top G cause.
What? See, that'd be just as bad. This clip is actually quite old and was the beginning of the Localizer versus people who actually log off saga. It simply resurfaced during the AI discourse because it perfectly represents the bastardization of Japanese-made content to lecture to a Western audience. I, for one, as an American, am so sick and tired of the hyper-politicization of every single piece of content created in the West that I no longer consume Western-made products. This may also be cited as evidence as to why anime and manga had such a recent surge in popularity to the point of becoming mainstream. I literally have a cutoff date for games made in the West, and it's 2016. So the resurfacing of this clip ignited beef with Jamie Marchi and her detractors, but I'm trying to keep this timeline as cohesive as possible, so we will return to that after we talk about Katrina. Oh boy. Katrina. Where do I even start with Katrina Landaukas? Arguably the worst localizer in the history of localizers, and for some reason, Sega keeps hiring her. Anyway, let's do our deep dive here. This person represents everything wrong with the localization industry and has a history of lashing out against those who offer completely valid criticism. So much so that after it was revealed that she was the localization coordinator for the recent Persona 3 remake, a majority of comments declared that they canceled their pre-orders. By the way, what the hell is a localization coordinator? Based off of a simple Google search, they simply coordinate the translators and check things before approving them and don't do any translation work, I think? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's probably another bullshit job to fill out DEI ESG bullshit. So she did the translations for the Horimiya anime. I enjoy a cute little anime rom-com from time to time. You know, not everything I watch needs to be fucking berserk. But I refuse to watch this one for the usage of Buregrfied. Yeah, no, I think I'll pass on this one. I guarantee there's more cringe zoomer slang in there. Or maybe I'll just read the manga, but I gotta double check who translated that. Or find a fan sub. In Higurashi, the phrase Big Brudder appears frequently. Here's a screenshot of her narcissistically defending her bastardization and claiming she made it better. Imagine if you went to a restaurant and ordered a steak, then the waiter came back with a burger. You complain about not getting what you ordered, and the waiter says, "Yeah, but I made it better, bigot." Like, come on. Come on, man. I'm no longer mad at this kind of behavior. I'm just disappointed. You know? Like, come on, man. She's also publicly complained about a Jump magazine containing attractive women in bikinis, or as they're known in Japan, gravure models on the cover because, you know, apparently having something that teenage boys like on the cover, you know, the target demographic, is problematic and makes her uncomfy. Get out of here. I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend Into a Girl is a manga about a guy that likes to wear makeup. Not my cup of tea, but there are plenty of people that read this kind of stuff. Throughout said manga, it was clearly defined that this character still identifies as a male. However, a translator, quote-unquote, wrongly misrepresented this character as trans. You know these people are part of the pronoun police. Personally, I don't really give a shit about all that pronoun stuff. You want to be called a certain name? Yeah, sure, whatever, you know? You want to be called she instead of here? I don't care, fine, whatever. I'm quite indifferent to that whole thing, but misrepresenting this character as transgendered alters the entire story. Katrina, in all her infinite wisdom, decided to come out and publicly defend the bad translation. Of course, when people compared the literal translation to the localization, there was backlash. So, what do you think she did? Yep, that's right. I'm right, you're wrong. Even if you're a Japanese native who is bilingual with English. Classic localizer deflection. But this is just one of many. We got many more. There's also the other incident of her proclaiming wildly popular show Spy X Family wouldn't have been successful without localizers. An absurd proclamation. Firstly, the manga was quite popular well before the anime aired. Should also be noted that the mangaka worked as an assistant for the highly influential Chainsaw Man author Tatsuki Fujimoto. That's already got people interested, considering how many of his assistants went on to make absolute bangers. The show was also heavily advertised, and the source material, believe it or not, is good. Who knew that a show being good made it popular? I never would have thought. Like, come on, are you kidding me? Get out of here. There's also a tweet where Katrina tried to get her name in the credits of a series review that she did the localization for. You know, a series that she didn't make. I'd say she only translated, but that's disrespectful to translators. There's also the incident of her completely going off the rails for Inukai-san's dog anime, or whatever the hell it was called. But straight up, I'll give you that one. That's peak degeneracy. That's something Vosh would like. Like, good God. That shit's gross, and I'm alright with her bastardizing that one. Guess Inukai-san must be half white. But that's just the well-documented example. She had a very bad reaction to the AI translations of the ancient Magus bride. The thing that ticks me off the most is her claiming that localizers are doing a quality job. We wouldn't be having this discussion if they did. Look, we don't care about any and all socio-political viewpoints you have or anything like that, you know? People just want accurate translations. Like, come on. Imagine if Berserk was localized, right? Imagine that in, like, the Eclipse scene. Oh no, Griffith got yeeted. Join us in doing capitalism. I'm about to commit misogyny. It'd be pretty shit, yeah? Anyway, to wrap up this Katrina segment, since we got so much more to cover, she thinks there's a minority of very vocal fans that are calling her out on her bullshit, when in actuality that's not true. Once again, to reiterate, I don't care about anyone's politics, okay? This whole TERF tweet here goes over my head because I don't care. What the fuck's a TERF? People just want accurate translations. Just do your job, okay? Just do your job. I, for one, am going to double-check the people working on bringing Japanese media stateside, and if Katrina's name is on the list, I'm just going to avoid it, okay? That's my take. Moving along to other individuals in the story, because we have a lot to cover, and this video is going to be quite long already. Okay. Sweet Baby Inc. Every reactionary YouTuber's big moneymaker right now. But John, isn't that what you're doing right now? Yeah, a little. Whatever, man. You're watching it, aren't you? Anyway, I've actually brought attention to this company in my Comicsgate video before the recent controversy. I'm sure you're aware by now, but the abridged version is Sweet Baby Inc. is a consulting company that alters video game companies' product to be more woke. Alright? For lack of a better word. And I do mean woke and not diverse and inclusive. I and the majority of people do not care what color, gender, or sexual orientation characters are in works of fiction, okay? If it's good, it's good. The problem is that these people are thinly veiled racists that hate the whites and hate heterosexual men. They've been exposed. It's a whole thing. Should also note that the swirl on their logo is suspicious, as swirls are iconography frequently used by deplorable and repulsive groups of people that do bad things with minors. Let's leave it at that for YouTube. No P words allowed here. Anyway, the reason they exist is simply to boost ESG scores. ESG is environment, societal, and governance. Basically, the more woke shit in your game, the higher scores, the better the investments from the Legion of Doom excuse me, BlackRock and Vanguard are in your company. Now, on to Spider-Man 2, the wokest game ever made. Listen, usually when people say something is woke, I'm like, do you mean that it's woke, or does it just have, like, black and gay people in it? Like, come on. After watching the boss battle with Mary Jane possessed by the symbiote, oh, spoiler I guess, whatever, who cares, I can confirm that the story of this game is woke trash. Alright? Anyway, being such a big budget game, there are multiple language dubs, including Spanish, a language I am heavily familiar with, and I'd say I'm semi-fluent in. I can hold a conversation fine. Oh, you thought I was only talking about weep shit this video, did ya? Oh no, it goes beyond that. So Spanish is a gendered language, okay? Meaning it has masculine and feminine words. The word the is either la for feminine or el for masculine. Usually feminine words end in an a, and masculine words end in an o. There are exceptions to the rule, though. In the Spanish dub of Spider-Man 2, the translation, or should I say localization team, absolutely defaced an entire language for the sake of their ESG scores. I'm sure Sweet Baby had an influence. No doubt in my mind. It's honestly disgusting and kind of pisses me off. And to deflect any localizers that say, but you don't translate, that may be watching this video, okay? Escúchame. Yo hablo español casi todos los días. Gente que no crean yo puedo traducir lenguas pueden besas mi culo. Gracias. Okay? So yeah, that's to anybody watching this that might be thinking like, oh, but he doesn't have any experience with translations. Cállate. Anyway, yes, I know my accent is very gringo, but I think Spanish speakers can get what I'm saying. That's for the localizers at Sweet Baby and Insomniac. But if you think myself, a white boy, am not doing this breakdown justice, here's a clip from a YouTuber called The Angry Mexican I found while researching this to break it down. I'm pretty sure by his username, he's Mexican, you know, a Spanish-speaking country, so here's his take.
Why they made Spider-Man woke, man? Oh my lord. Just a little bit of context if you don't know why une important homologue is wrong in Spanish. This is what they call inclusive language. And when I say they, I'm not referring to they, them. They refer to inclusive language using an E at the end of each word, because if you know, Spanish is a gender language. So we put an O for masculine or an A for feminine at the end of each pronoun or each word that can be gendered. And the pronouns, depending on the gender of the word, of the noun, and depending of the gender of the noun, it will transform the rest of the words in the sentence. Like here, une importante entomóloga. Would be correct, una importante entomóloga. That would be the right thing, or entomólogo, or un importante entomólogo in case it's a man. Although she looks like a girl. I don't know. Nowadays, we don't fucking know.
This is my first encounter with this guy's content, but seems like a cool guy. Go send him some love. Also, while making this video, apparently it came out that the Department of Homeland Security is funding some organization to try to stop the recent backlash to Sweet Baby, and they're keeping them funded. The FBI, I think it was this FBI or the CIA too, one of the other ones, to go after the chuds. Really? You could spend all this money on going after the chuds online, but you can't shut down the fucking border? Okay, well, I don't want to get political, but holy shit. We really do live in a fucking clown world. That aside, that's a discussion for a different day, maybe a different channel. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, bad localization transcends more than the Japanese to English market. Now I need to segue into the Jamie Marchi nonsense. That infamous Dragon Maid clip that resurfaced thanks to YouTuber desu pulling it up during the recent AI translation debates and started a whole ass war. Asmongold got involved, it's a whole thing. But there is something I need to address about Rev since we're far enough into this video. Yeah, oh boy. Oh boy. Here we go. I don't think Rev's a bad guy or anything, and to be honest, I wouldn't have a clear timeline of events without him, but the constant defense of lolicon content is heavily concerning. There was an instance of a localizer trying to censor a manga because a character was underage or something like that he was against, so I suppose that's one thing that ties into this. I can't remember the exact situation, and there are certain search terms to find this that I don't want in my browser history. So, this segment is more of an aside and will be pretty brief, but I do feel like I have to talk about it, as some localizers are obsessed with the ages of fictional characters. When it comes to lolly Shota stuff, yeah, not a fan. I find it gross and very sus. I mean, looking at you, Vlosh. But a drawing is just a drawing. What someone does with it is none of my business. Now, when it comes to lollies or shotas, those words could actually refer to like a body type of a full-grown adult. I believe I saw a video where Rev himself said Rebecca from the Cyberpunk anime is an adult lolly. I guess that's applicable there. I don't know, as I haven't seen that anime, but I am very familiar of fan art of Lucy. You know, fan art. This argument is acceptable. It falls apart when you have characters like Shinobu from Monogatari who are 1,000-year-old vampires that take on the form of little girls and are put into situations that Joe Biden fantasizes about daily. That shit's gross. But once again, a drawing is just a drawing. Now I need to address the frequent high school setting in anime. Okay. See this character? What age do you think this character is? I only want people who are not familiar with this anime to tell me. Okay? 25? 23? 20? What if I told you canonically this character is 15? You probably wouldn't believe me if you didn't read the source material. And as someone who has read the source material, reading it, I frequently forgot this story was about high school students and not adults. Here's another example. 4 of these characters are legal adults. One's a minor. Can you guess which one? Probably not. It's the blue chick, by the way. Tell me, which one you guess below? The way a lot of these characters are drawn is comparable to live-action high school movies and shows in the West where everyone is 30. The HBO series Euphoria is a prime example. However, Zendaya is someone I claim fits the phrase lolly body type. I don't get the appeal, Zoomers. Whatever, not for me. There are, of course, cultural differences. It's really just the sexually explicit content of characters that are classified as lollies that I find repugnant. And a bigger problem that these lolicon defenders have is the existence of white Bowser.
Chihuahua, they were underage. A Chihuahua, a Chihuahua, a Chihuahua for Chihuahua. But you're really serious?
Really serious?
Yeah, probably not who you want on your side. If you're unfamiliar with that person, do your own research at your own risk. Anyway, I still don't think that drawing should have been censored for the Western market. Rev constantly defending lolicons is a bit sus, but we need to move on. But before we do, should also note that the people defending bad localization are the same people calling the character Eve from the upcoming Stellar Blade game a child. Which makes my brain hurt. Why does every attractive woman look like a child to these people? Why do they defend the ugly woman phenomenon as more realistic when in real life it's hard to find women that ugly? And most of all, when is the PC port of Stellar Blade gonna come out? Anyway, whatever. Forget that little tangent. We're just gonna move on. Jamie Marchi. So, to put things into perspective for the sake of this video and give a semi-consistent timeline of this madness, we need to go back to Rev Says Desu. So he uploaded several videos about localizers and their egregious changes, and they all performed well. What can you say? People love drama. Probably the same reason you clicked on this very video. Anyway, in one of them, he pulled up the Dragon Maid dub I mentioned earlier. Popular Twitch streamer and professional hoarder Asmongold continued his practice of content theft and lazily reacted to work he did not make. I, for one, used to be pretty indifferent to this individual, but the recent defense of Hassan Piker's claims of streaming being such hard work, I'm so tired, made me not like him at all. Also, clean your room, dude. Disgusting. However, I will need to defend him here as the localizers are a greater threat to art, creativity, and artistic expression. He reacted to it, and sided with Rev, and that led to his large audience finding the clip at the start of this video, as well as a litany of atrocious tweets. There's something about dub voice actors, man, but I will get to that shortly. For now, we'll be dissecting the clip from the convention.
So this is more directed at Jamie, but all of you can answer.
Go, Jamie, go. I'm excited about it.
I'm ready to bring down the room. Let's do it.
We need a spotlight.
So Funimation has come under, let's call it, criticism for how they choose to adapt their scripts for
like
a couple
unnecessary
of shows.
hate. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and a lot of that I feel is directed at you unfairly.
The fact that she and her crew start talking over the fan who is asking a perfectly acceptable question displays what one can suspect is a superiority complex. Those who have humble intentions would not interrupt someone asking a tough question and would most likely give their full attention to them. This technique is often used in political debates and news talk shows, when the opposition is making a good counterpoint and the party in question does not have a good defense. You can see this technique practiced by individuals like Ben Shapiro and Hassan Piker. How can the viewers hear an opposing viewpoint that may sway their opinion when you can't even hear it?
Do you really consider me watching a fucking dumbass YouTube video from a drama farming channel to be doing research? I don't need to do research
this is what you're
on a video.
About. You're going into a topic you don't know anything about.
Brother, just give me what you want to say.
Case in point. Anyway, back to the clip.
Thank you.
So how would you like to respond to that kind of criticism?
To the criticism, like, I have a vagina, deal with it. Like, it's honestly, that's the truth.
Okay, so whether or not you have a vagina or a penis or whatever the hell these days, honestly, it is entirely irrelevant. I have no doubt this is true, but what led her to bringing up her genitals when asked why she made drastic changes to a script to a show that she did not make based off a manga that she did not write? I have no idea. Perhaps it was deflecting to proclaim that her critics fall under the category of misogynist or anti-feminist or what have you. Personally, I don't care too much about that kind of thing, honestly. Look, when it comes to feminism, I believe that people should have equal rights in a society regardless of gender. If that makes me a feminist, so be it. However, modern teachings of radical feminist rhetoric shifts the focus from women's rights to misandry. I do not agree with that sentiment. If that makes me a misogynist, so be it. Whether or not these women are funny or talented is not relevant to the question at hand. It is a highly debatable topic, as humor is subjective and so is the determination of whether or not someone is talented. It's also strange that these people adapt scripts to dub over for people too lazy to read subtitles and claim that supports their claims of being funny or talented. Nothing new was made in the process. They simply hijacked something to place their own beliefs into. Admittedly, I am currently unfamiliar with this Dragon Maid anime, but the fact that Kyoto did it has me intrigued. Full Metal Panic Second Raid is one of my favorite anime that I've seen, and Violet Evergarden is so beautifully done that Kyoto jumped to the top 3 of my favorite anime studio lists. However, I feel there was no need to change the source material. Not to mention, from her tweets and work as script adapter, she proclaimed that she added a whole bunch of feminist rhetoric to a lot of shows. I want to know because I am a subs purist, okay? I don't like dubs. I want to watch the thing in the original language it was recorded in. Also, dubbed voice actors sound like Jamie Marchi, and if I wanted to listen to that, I just type #feminist into the TikTok search bar.
I am a woman. I am a funny woman. We are all talented, funny, powerful women. We are out here. It's going to happen. Deal with it. I'm sorry you're not getting laid. It's not about you. Move on.
Okay. I really don't understand the relevancy of whether or not one is sexually active to this debate. I don't understand why this is a default insult or deflection of criticism. Who cares? Honestly, I don't understand this hyperfixation of whether or not someone is a virgin or not. Like, who the fuck cares? We live in a very strange time, but we're gonna move on, okay? I don't get this. I just don't get it, man. Who the fuck cares?
You get a lot of hate online.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous.
This segment of her response puzzles me. At this moment, this video I'm making may be incorrectly perceived as online hate. That isn't true. There may be a jab or two just to add a bit of humor in this video or to keep it interesting, but in actuality, this is a critique. The majority of people criticizing localizers in recent months simply want accurate translations, not bastardizations. It's also ironic that she seems so hostile to critics, thus spreading hate of her own. Not to mention the fact that there's some evidence that she was part of the smear campaign against Vic Incident, if I'm saying that correctly. But we will get to that after this segment about Marchi.
If I'm making misogynists and Nazis angry, then I'm doing all right.
Tried and true tactic. Those who criticize are those who radicalize. Why prepare a well thought out and productive counterpoint that will solve a problem if you can simply label the opposition as an extremist? Works every time. Some people are so plugged into the culture war and woke culture and the red pill that they forget that the internet is not reality. This is exhausting, okay? I do not care if you are woke or red pilled or whatever. I just want to enjoy things without the constant interjection of Western politics. The fact that when criticized about poor performance, these people will hurl labels, on both sides mind you, exemplifies that these people don't understand the nature of reality. Most people don't care. They just want to watch a funny show about Big Booba Dragon Lady, okay? That's it. The fact that somehow politics became interjected into this show hurts my brain. Like, why?
Why?
Anyway, after the resurfacing of this clip and the subsequent revelation of her spiteful tweets, she, 1, went into a Twitter frenzy, actively seeking out people that were in agreement with Asmongold and Says Desu, sometimes angrily replying to tweets with 1 to 3 likes, and 2, made this awful TikTok.
Some followers of Asmongold have been criticizing me and demanding answers regarding a line I wrote in 2017 and the answer I gave to a question at a panel a year or 2 later. If you don't know who Asmongold is, he is a streamer with well over 2 million followers. Now, since Asmongold was gracious enough to respond to the criticism and the demands for answers he's been receiving regarding his involvement with Soft Giving and their controversy, I thought it's only fair that I respond to his followers in kind. Well, who gives a shit? Somebody makes an allegation against me and now somehow I have to respond to it? No, I don't have to say anything. Who gives a fuck?
Okay, listen. Listen, Marchi clearly gives a shit or else she would have logged off. I respect her position of defending her changes. At the very least, if you make a turd, you stand by your turd, okay? An allegory I can make is a while back when lewd artist Sakimi-chan came under fire for exaggerated proportions of the female figure, albeit some women in reality are very much built like that. But she ended up apologizing, disappointing fans. But at the very least, I can respect Marchi's decision to not budge on her viewpoints in terms of adapting and dubbing scripts, okay? I can kind of respect her stubbornness. However, this is drawing more negative attention to the localization industry, and it's just upsetting all around for real anime fans. I find it strange that such behaviors like this are tolerated by the people that employ her. I understand that we're here on YouTube, joking around, not too serious, yada yada yada, but this is her job. I, for one, if I was Funimation, or I guess Crunchyroll at this point, would be concerned about how this would reflect on the company. I absolutely do not agree with companies monitoring activities of employees on their personal time whatsoever. I find that gross and authoritarian, but this case is a little different. This entire thing revolves around her job where she works. It's not a good look, and maybe it's in part responsible for the inevitable use of AI in subtitling future works. I really don't understand the people against AI for that kind of use, which leads me to my next segment. Here we go again, boys. Back into the AI discourse. So, what kickstarted this large-scale backlash to the localization industry was the usage of AI in translating a chapter of the ancient Magus Bride. Guess what? It was a more accurate translation than what the majority of localizers have done. Now, I've been extremely critical of AI and its abilities to potentially replace humans in the past. I mean, this is an art channel primarily, so my main thing was on AI art. In short, AI art will never ever replace human-made art in my opinion. Firstly, it seems that AI art bros are starting to walk away from it because they actually have no passion to create art. I'm seeing less and less on social media these days. Secondly, human artists, unlike localizers, do their job. Sure, art is subjective, but the best artists will never stop making art that is true to themselves, no matter how tumultuous the AI situation becomes. On the other hand, localizers don't do their job. Their job is to translate and adapt one language to another. Understandably, sometimes alterations are required from the literal translation. For instance, let's say a simple phrase like, I don't know, I took out the trash, right? A literal translation may be something like, I removed the garbage and placed it in the outdoor receptacle. Like, what the fuck? One flows better than the other, and in that case, localization makes sense. However, going from, I'll give you a boost to my favorite working designs localization is not doing your fucking job. I still love that, it's still funny. There are also some people saying that they want localizers to keep doing what they're doing and are big mad about the AI tech. I remember seeing a tweet by anime YouTuber Mother's Basement comparing AI translations from a few years ago to now, saying that the tech didn't get better, which it did, by the way. And localizers deserve to remain employed actively destroying work they did not create. Side tangent. You know, there was always something about this guy that rubbed me the wrong way. Wouldn't be surprised if he got canceled for something degenerate. Something about his condescending way of speaking. But that's completely speculative and based simply off of vibes, so don't quote me on that. I don't know. I just felt I needed to include that little side tangent. Sorry about that. Just, I don't know. There's something off about that guy to me. Anyway, these people actively hate the stuff they're working on, and I don't get it. Go to work somewhere else, then. There's so much hate amongst these people, which leads me to the next segment, and this one's a major concern. Okay. This is the big one right here. So, back to Jamie Marchi and dub voice actors. So, a few years back, voice actor Vic Mignaga, I can't say his name, Vic, you know, Cowboy Bebop, that guy, came under fire with sexual assault allegations in an operation spearheaded by Monica Rial, most known as the English voice of Bulma in Dragon Ball, and Jamie Marchi. There were several conflicting reports on this matter, but in the end, Vic was proven innocent. Now, it did come to light that he did cheat on his fiancée, I believe at the time, or wife, or his partner, and I absolutely do not condone that, but being an asshole like that isn't illegal. So, anyway, Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial went on to make a podcast in which they laughed about making the whole thing up, but I cannot for the life of me find the audio clipped, and I would rather die than going through 4 hours of listening to Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial. So, look. In the end, Vic was proven innocent, but he did lose his job. This was a few years back when the Me Too movement was still in its infancy. I hate to get political, but there's been so many false allegations since the dawn of this movement that I went from reading a woman's testimony with the mindset, well, we should absolutely investigate this, to now, I need to check if she's lying first. Which is an awful thing, that's terrible for real victims, but vindictive and spiteful people like these voice actors will do anything to feed their ego. More notable examples are Justin Roiland and Johnny Depp. We now live in a world where accusations are convictions and people wonder why the birth rate is plummeted and it's harder than ever for men and women to connect. I wonder why. Side tangent aside, this leads me to something that concerns me, and that's the shitty behaviors of Western voice actors, particularly those who do work in dubbing. But Localizers' crimes extend beyond dubbing. It's time for the gamers to rise up. Okay, we're talking Gamergate 2.0, or whatever the government is wasting our taxpayer dollars on these days. So, with the recent controversy of these localizers, Japanese video games are brought up. Now, I for one have a cutoff date for games made by AAA Western devs, and that is 2016, as I mentioned earlier. Ever since Sarkeesian poisoned the gaming industry, and I'd argue all of Western civilization with the initial Gamergate thing, creating a horrific ripple effect distorting all media with woke shit, the world hasn't been the same. So, Japanese companies continue to make good games while Western companies made slot machines with stories full of left-leaning lectures, ugly characters, and lazy glitches. It blows my mind that Spider-Man 2 was nominated for Game of the Year when they were literally people posting clips of them falling through the map. But that's a discussion for another time. While the Western game industry declined because people such as myself just wanted to play fun games that are finished and have no woke shit, Japanese game companies became more lucrative and popular. For instance, look at how popular the Yakuza or Like a Dragon series became in the past few years. However, in the past few years, Japanese game devs have become more interested in global appeal for their games, completely forgetting that one of the reasons people like Japanese games is because they're Japanese. Companies like Square Enix, Capcom, and Sega are slowly but surely putting in more woke shit. Should also be noted that Sony, a Japanese company most known for the PlayStation, moved their headquarters to America. Now these Japanese companies are working right alongside localization teams. As we found out, Western localizers exist to bastardize art. They're starting to have an influence on the development process of games rather than just how they're translated. Now these games are having their art direction influenced for the sake of the global market. And here's an example right here with this article about Bandai Namco, where they're trying to eliminate anything fan servicey or mildly erotic. Now, I'm not a big Namco fan, but I do love the Soul Calibur series. If Soul Calibur 7 comes out and they put my girl Taki in a burqa, I'm gonna be pissed. But it's also kind of weird that these people have an issue with attractive characters in video games, but at the same time are most likely Twitch thought enablers and the same people on Twitter shouting sex work is real work. I'm indifferent to these stances, I'm just noting the hypocrisy. Also, there are instances of women complaining about attractive female characters who are simultaneously drooling over attractive male characters, like, come on, man. Speaking about attractive female characters, it should be noted that it seems South Korea is taking the reins from Japan. Obviously, the recent Stellar Blade discourse, which in my opinion as someone who grew up gaming from the 5th gen, is a non-issue. Okay? Beautiful women, and men mind you, used to be the standard in games. These Twitter fricks will complain, realism! When 1, this character is based off of a real person. 2, it's a fucking video game. No one wants realism in games. 3, go outside. There are plenty of beautiful women, and men mind you, existing in real life. 4, it's a fucking video game. Calm down. 5, it was never an issue before the Sarkeesian poisoning of 2014. And 6, it's a fucking video game. Now, admittedly, there are Coomers being weird about it. Like, I see some frequent tweeters posting multiple times a day about how hot this character is, and yes, she's very attractive. The real-life model more so, but, like, maybe stop gooning for 5 minutes, bro. Anyway, outside influence shouldn't affect what people make. Just make something good. If it is truly good, it will transcend the global market. Fuck all that other shit. Stay true to your artistic vision and don't let others alter it, even if they are shitty voice actors with a lot of YouTube subscribers, segueing nicely into this next part. So, getting back to weeb shit. Dub voice actors are kind of shitty people, huh? I have 2 examples ready, but I need to reiterate the fact that Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial spearheaded a smear campaign against Vic Mignaga. I will never be able to say this man's name. I am so sorry. Mignagda. Whatever. Alright. And it practically ruined his life. These women practically ruined his life. Scum. Anyway, ProZD. This one disappoints me because I enjoy his YouTube content. So ProZD, despite being a YouTuber, is also a voice actor. A while back, he expressed his concern about race matching characters in voice acting. There was a stink a while back about this, and it's really, really fucking stupid.
I like this guy, he's fun.
Some people think that if a character is a certain race, gender, or sexual orientation in something that requires voice acting, the voice actor should match it. I, for one, don't agree with that. For example, Bill Lamar is Samurai Jack and Christopher Judge is Kratos, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Not to mention instances when creatures need to be voiced. Where are you going to find the 1,000-year-old dragon to voice the 1,000-year-old dragon? Come on. Come on, get the fuck out of here. Like, really? But this is how those LA people think. Their minds are race, gender, race, gender, race, gender. 24/7, and it's kind of weird, to be honest. It's also funny that ProZD wanted to be typecast as an Asian guy and then was limited to roles that fit his criteria and proceeded to complain about it. Not to mention this infamous skit.
Much honorable hellos. I am very honored to be a true samurai. Ah, my ancestors truly smile upon me.
Like, bro, come on. You played yourself.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
And again, this is disappointing to me. My other example is Yong. Now, Yong is actually a solid voice actor, who was, for some reason, cast as the English voice of Kazuma Kiryu in my beloved Like a Dragon franchise. It's one of my favorite series, and I was mostly confused about this decision. Doesn't matter much to me, since, in my opinion, Kuroda is Kiryu, Kiryu is Kuroda. I always play these games with a 99% Japanese cast that takes place in Japan, save for Infinite Wealth, with Japanese audio. I feel like that's the only way. Should also note that when I play weeb games that literally have anime in it, I also switch the audio to Japanese, and honestly, it's more about the cringy way dub actors sound. Now, the major criticism of Yong is that he sounded way too young to play a nearly 60 hardened Yakuza that was a lifelong smoker and drinker and did time. Oh, and had cancer. I should also bring up that seeing footage of the English dub, the voice actor of Ichiban doesn't fit at all either. The guy is supposed to be a Yakuza in his 40s that served nearly 20 years in prison, and he sounds like a 14-year-old boy. What the fuck? After people critiqued Yong, he had a Twitter Hissy Fit meltdown. The majority of people wanted to know why Daryl Carrillo, the voice of Kiryu in the PS2 original game, who also came back for the English dub of 7, was replaced. Come on. You know why. Anyway, that's just 2 instances, but it seems voice actors are a strange clique of high school student behaving weirdos. I don't like them. However, on the Japanese side, voice acting is treated more like an art form, and there are even schools for it. It's a very respectable profession over there. If only we were more like them. Instead of bastardizing art, they contribute gracefully to it. Quite heavy in contrast to the thing that led me to make this video. So, there's a YouTuber named Jello Apocalypse who I was unfamiliar with before being compelled to revive this video. There's also an anime named Lovely Complex. Put them together and what do you get? Absolute disaster. Not to mention atrocious PR for the small handful of localizers that actually do what they're supposed to do. So, let's begin. I was unfamiliar with this person before the news broke, but it's a very likely story. So he made trolly animations, whatever. Eventually he got woke and became a leftoid. Then somehow he ended up working on the localization of Lovely Complex, some anime rom-com or something. I don't know it, but that's actually irrelevant. Should note that he made a Tumblr video about it being cringe, and then years later wrote an apology that rivals an AI art bro's rationale in length. He also sounds like this! More or less, but I digress. He worked on the localization of the series Lovely Complex, and it was done so horrendously the dubbing company literally publicly apologized. Then he proceeded to brag about his bastardizations on his Patreon. The funny thing is that he did it for free. I get the company saving money, but come on. Part of his Patreon post was him mocking the very thing he was working on. Part of it was hating on tall women, which will not be tolerated in my community. No. No. I should also mention that this show is actually old and the English dub is new. Kinda confusing. Once again, why? So this scumbag, Jello Fart Boy, justifies his severe alterations as correcting bad art, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard. These people want to police creativity so it conforms only to their worldview, where no one is allowed to express individual thought and must become one with the cause, man. The Russian Communist Revolution and the Third Reich all started at the policing of creatives' work. Once you alter the art that can be consumed by the masses that needs to be approved by those in power, those without strong wills can easily have their minds swayed to extremism. The whole sentiment that localizers fix art is no different. It's repulsive and gross, just like Jello Fart Boy's secret DeviantArt account. Well, alleged secret DeviantArt account. There's mostly circumstantial evidence, but Jello Fart Boy may have had a DeviantArt account where he posted fart fetish illustrations, so, yeah. I'm just gonna move on. So, every creator would love to see their work adapted into another medium. As a comic creator myself, so would I. Fan works are welcome. But what happens when an adaptation is really bad? What happens when the audience seems to blame the original creator and not the people who adapted it? What happens when the creator takes their work extremely seriously and is going back and forth with the studio, adapting it to try and make it closer to the source material? Well, you get the sexy Tanaka-San incident. So, there was a manga called Sexy Tanaka-San. I am unfamiliar with it, and I don't know if it is finished, but I know it never will be. A live-action TV adaptation was being aired in Japan. The show heavily deviated from the source material, and fans were displeased. Harassment piled up against the original creator, despite her efforts to work with the TV studio to make it better. One thing led to another, and now, the author is no longer with us. Some people really don't want their art altered. Some people do take things too seriously. Some people like to recreate art they didn't make in their own image. Evil cannot create anything new. It can only corrupt and ruin what good forces have intended or made. Sure, there may have been other factors at play that led this author to this decision, but the harassment was probably what pushed her over the edge. It's almost disrespectful to say it, and I'm sorry, but she might still be with us if her work wasn't altered. If only people just did their jobs. Rest in peace, Hanako Ashihara. If these people who completely bastardize art that they didn't create continue to do what they do, who knows what will remain in the end? Let me propose a question to you. If you made a piece of art, be it visual, audio, film, or what have you, that is impactful enough to last centuries, would you be okay with it being altered and altered over and over again to appease the political tides of the day? Would it even really be the same thing? In conclusion, nothing should be updated for modern audiences, no matter how uncomfy these Twitter freaks may feel. Please make art without fear. Do not bend the knee to these losers, and for the love of God, please replace them with AI. Be well, and have a good day. Thank you for watching this video.